I've written and talked before about how the work of evaluators and others can be supported through the practice of mindfulness. Well, would you believe it if I said that mindfulness can be indirectly enhanced through the application of an artificial intelligence application? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain just how. I'll also share relevant links in the related blog post. First off, I'm going to talk about an artificial intelligence application called GPT-3. Then I'm going to talk about evaluation and the relevance of the AI tool to evaluation through enhancing mindfulness by using GPT-3 to develop reflective questions, to generate different reflective questions above and beyond what we start with in a novel way. All right, so Generative Pre-trained Transformer 3, or GPT-3, was introduced in mid-2020 by OpenAI, an artificial intelligence research company. GPT-3 is what's referred to as a transformer, which is based on a deep learning model called a neural network. GPT-3 can be used by individuals who are not proficient in coding, as it has a text-in, text-out interface that can complete many types of English language tasks. It was trained on data from Common Crawl, which is regularly obtained archive of the web, as well as other web text, books, and Wikipedia. It utilizes about 175 billion parameters compared with 1.5 billion parameters for the previous version, GPT-2. So based off of the text you input into the app, it basically predicts the text that should follow. And I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. Individuals and organizations can use GPT-3 through the OpenAI Playground, a web-based interface, or create applications that use GPT-3 API in the background. The types of use cases for GPT-3 include all sorts of things. Classification, completion, conversation, semantic search, summarization, factual responses, generation, transformation, all these types of use cases. Developers have been working on many different creative applications of GPT-3, and I share a link in of some of the examples in the blog post. GPT-3 has potential to be dangerous as well, as it can be difficult to tell a difference between its output and what's written by real people. There are a multitude of nefarious opportunities. For instance, generating spam, fraud, plagiarism. It's also trained on data from the web, some of which is racist, sexist, and has abusive language. So, have you looked at the internet lately? So clearly GPT-3 has to be used carefully and with supervision. Regardless, in the coming years, transformers such as GPT-3 and related technologies will likely become ubiquitous because they can be useful for many text-related tasks. Microsoft obtained an exclusive license for GPT-3 for $1 billion, so I imagine they'll be integrating it into their products or offer it in some other ways soon. Also, Google recently indicated that they trained a language model called a switch transformer with 1.6 trillion parameters. So there's likely to be competition and growth in this space. Currently, GPT-3 can provide substantial benefits for professional evaluators and researchers when working on different projects. For instance, I've used GPT-3 for various purposes, including brainstorming learning outcomes, developing multiple choice questions, and all sorts of things. It's been great to have access to this tool. So let's relate all of this to evaluation. Oh yeah, and just in case you're wondering, what is this whole discipline of evaluation anyway? Well, various definitions of evaluation have been proposed through the years. I talked with Amy Gullikson about her 2020 article related to this topic. She proposed the following definition, building on the work of other evaluators. Evaluation is the generation of a credible and systematic determination of merit, worth, and/or significance of an object through the application of defensible criteria and standards to demonstrably relevant empirical facts. Well, when most people ask me what evaluation is, I'll say something like, I help to figure out how programs that are run by organizations that help people are doing and how to make them better. If they ask me more questions, I might use a more proper definition. But in order for us to accomplish this as evaluators, it's essential to think clearly. Specifically, as Ernie House argues, it's important for evaluators to become aware of our biases in thinking and take active steps towards mitigating them, learning from both the research methodology, social psychology, cognitive sciences, and so forth, literature, research literature. But how does all of this relate now to mindfulness, which is what I said toward the beginning? Well, first off, what is mindfulness? Jon Kabat-Zinn described it as follows. Mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, not judgmentally, in the service of self-understanding and wisdom. Okay, so some mindfulness-based programs actually encourage the use of what's called reflective questions to promote mindfulness in participants. Ronald Epstein and his colleagues, physicians, described the habit of self-questioning as important to developing self-monitoring and mindfulness in physicians in training and physicians who are advanced in their practice, both. They indicated using reflective questions enhances the ability to see familiar situations with new eyes and to self-monitor one's actions during actual practice. This metacognitive practice can improve one's ability to become more self-aware of bias in thinking. They also state, in this way, we can consciously sense our tendency to draw rapid conclusions to quell our anxiety and have a conscious choice to inhibit such automatic reactions from controlling our decision-making processes. All right. So cognitive dissonance is one example of a process that can lead to bias in thinking, and it occurs when we hold contradictory cognitions or engage in behavior that's inconsistent with a cognition. So to manage the stress that we feel, or this what becomes a dissonant state, we may rationalize or justify how it's important to have what appears to be incompatible views or incompatible view and behavior. An example of this provided by Leon Festinger, who developed cognitive dissonance theory, is the case of one who smokes, even though they're confronted with evidence that smoking is harmful. Such an individual may initially experience a dissonant state that is really emotionally uncomfortable. This dissonance can be alleviated by changing beliefs, for instance, devaluing the evidence of harm provided by research studies, or by rationalizing that smoking actually improves stress management, leading to overall positive health or cardiovascular health or something like that. So we all do this, often beyond awareness, sometimes leading to holding irrational beliefs and poor decision making. I'll come back to how reflective questions can be used to mitigate the impact of this process. But let me say, in their paper, Epstein and colleagues list an example of reflective questions for physicians they use in their program that I thought could be modified for professional evaluators and used by us. So here's three. Below are three of the ones, and I reworded them for program evaluators. So first off, what are other data sources to which I've not paid attention? Is there another way I can understand what's happening in the evaluation and or my response? What would a respected colleague say about how I'm conducting, managing, and feeling about this evaluation? So using these three samples for what's called few-shot training and iteratively adjusting GPT-3 parameters and running the API about 30 times more or less, it generated some useful physician and evaluator reflective questions. And I listed 10 of the better pairs that it generated in my blog. Let me show you first how I did it. This is what the playground looks like. And again, it's a text interface. And here we have the text that you type, and then you run the model by clicking submit. There's different parameters to the right that you can adjust. And I won't go into these in too much detail, but the most common of the different engines is the DaVinci one, and that's the one I used. You can adjust the response length, which is the number of tokens or the response length. Every time you press submit, this will adjust how long the response will be. So I set it to about 200, just a little bit less than 200. 193. Temperature it's kind of like the equivalent of sort of like creativity, if you will. High temperature leads to unlikely text. Low temperature is more likely text. So if you want sort of more diverse responses, you'll set the temperature higher. And that's what I did here. I set it not super high, but at 0.7. And again, I adjusted these. I had to come up with this text, and I used these 3 pairs. The physician questions came from the Epstein article. These are the evaluator equivalents that we came up with. And then I picked 3 of the better ones, I thought, and then ran additional ones from there. And I adjusted these different parameters. Top P, I typically just leave it at 1. Frequency penalty and presence penalty. Frequency penalty helps avoid word repetition. Presence penalty controls topic repetition. So I didn't want the topics to be too similar, so I set that at 0.5, 0.51. Again, I adjusted it a few times. This is called few-shot training, where we give these sort of samples, give this instruction here. Again, like you're telling a colleague or a personal assistant, this is what I want to do. Explaining it simply, using simple sentences, and then running it. And so I don't know what it's going to give right now, but you can see in the blog post the 10 that I like the most. And again, I'm most concerned about the evaluator reflective questions. But these are types of reflective questions that I plan to use more regularly and come up with additional ones in my own practice. So I'll run it a couple times here just to kind of show you what it looks like, not knowing what's going to come up. See, so this says, this kind of first one, when I ran it, and I ran it 30 of some on times coming up with those 10, so most of them weren't really very good. You can see that this first one here, really not relevant, the person being evaluated. What is the evaluee feeling in the situation? What are other thoughts that could distract me from understanding the situation better? So what I would do is I would copy and paste into another Google Doc, or into a Google Doc, the ones that I kind of liked. So can rerun it again, just sort of undo that, click submit, and just keep going. And see which ones would be like good questions to provide reflection on what I'm doing as an evaluator in this particular situation. These are questions I could ask myself. So I don't really like any of these here. What might the team be saying about the evaluation? Might be worth considering. Again, these are, each time there's it's generating this from, it's sort of predicting what the next word will be, the next token will be, and then following from that, starting at this 4 based on this previous text, and then based on these parameters here. The temperature is set relatively high, so you're going to have some diversity, and then we set the presence penalty, sort of medium, like 0.5, so that the themes would not recur. What do I need to learn more about in order to conduct and manage this evaluation in the best possible way? That's interesting. What have I learned that I could apply to future evaluations? What can I do differently with this evaluation? So these are kind of interesting. There's a couple here that are worth thinking about. I'll just run this 2 more times. What am I most uncertain about? Okay, let's run it one more time here. And again, I ran this many times. I kept, adjusting the text, adjusting the instructions, adjusting the parameters, and I found that these settings for this this app, if you will, and you can save it here. So I actually saved it as reflective questions, so I could reuse it in the future, come up with more questions. But I found that these parameters, these settings work the best for what I was trying to achieve. Okay, so let's relate the use of reflective questions to building mindfulness and to improving our practice of evaluation in our work. As Scott Fitzgerald said, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. This quote relates to the approach suggested by Carol Tavris and Elliot Aronson in their 2020 edition of Mistakes Were Made, But Not By Me. Gotta love that title. With respect to effectively managing cognitive dissonance. Their suggestion is that when we feel the discomfort of dissonance, that instead of diminishing it by changing belief or attitude in an unreasonable manner, first we have to notice that we're doing it, that we notice what we're doing. We notice the feeling, the discomfort, we sit with it, and then we reflect on the incompatible beliefs and our behaviors in an honest, open manner, thereby engaging in a potentially fruitful struggle toward insight and truth. Reflective questions can be used to improve self-awareness and decrease the impact of cognitive bias on judgment and thinking. For instance, reflective question, what aspects of this evaluation have caused me to feel uncomfortable, can help identify the type of discomfort associated with a dissonant state referred to by Tavris and Aronson that can lead to the negative effects that they describe. They also emphasize that it's essential to have a mindset that is permissible, that's permissible to make mistakes, and that making a mistake does not mean we are stupid or inherently bad. They say that although most people in the West say this, that most really don't believe it. So the problem that is, if we believe that it's not acceptable to make mistakes, then cognitive dissonance can lead us to deny that we made a mistake, to protect ourselves, to justify our behavior in some way, to sort of protect ourselves from that dissonant state. The reflective questions for evaluators: what have I done that if I could do it again, I would do differently? What have I learned about myself as an evaluator are examples that can help us with cultivating a view that there's always room for improvement and missteps are natural and learning opportunities. All right, so after using GPT-3 for this purpose, it became obvious that it can be a great idea generation tool, but with the necessity of careful guidance from the user. Most of what it yielded in the reflective questions example was not valuable, but I think that it did give some gems in the list that you'll see in the blog post, and a few of which I mentioned above, that can assist in deepening the mindfulness practice of evaluators. Oh yeah, and you can request access to the GPT-3 Playground through the link that's available in the blog post to the OpenAI webpage. Let me hear from you, what you think about the use of reflective questions and the ones that were generated, and the use of GPT-3 for our field. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you.